in here today, whether you're a member of the applicant or owner team, a neighboring property owner or community member, or someone else. So I will start with Drew Asmus. If you could unmute for me. It's usually in the bottom left of the application. See if I can send you a prompt. Still muted. So if you're on your computer in the application, it should be in the bottom left, a little microphone. It says mute. As you're working on, there we go.
Yes, Drew Asmus, resident.
Okay. Are you adjacent to the property, a neighbor?
Across the street.
Okay. Great. Welcome, Mr. Asmus.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jacqueline.
Hi, Jacqueline McCrae, Vice President, College Hill Forum.
Okay. And Ms. McCrae, could you spell your last name for me?
McCray.
All right. Great. And Gail May.
Yeah, Gail May with Virgo Realty, the owner of the property.
Okay. Welcome. And Nathan Tyree.
You got it. This is Nathan Tyree. I'm with Burkhart Engineering, and I'm the design engineer for the project working for Virgo.
Okay, great. Welcome. I see that we have Matt Lashide from the Department of City Planning and Engagement.
Hi, David. Hi, everybody.
All right. And finally, Carolyn Royalty. And you are muted as well.
I'm Carolyn Royalty. I'm a resident on Groesbeck Rd across from the property.
Okay, great. Welcome. All righty. So before we get started, I need to read through our hearing script, which will basically cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get into it. So this is the October 16th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city. The case before us today is case number ZH20240121. That is 1500 Groesbeck Road. The purpose of the hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. As I understand it, there are a few housekeeping matters that we need to address in terms of zoning relief needed, and I think maybe a request for continuance from a neighbor and potential changes. So we'll first get those out of the way. Depending on what happens with that, if we move forward with the hearing, we'll go to the applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent. For our purposes here, that'll be Ms. May and Mr. Tyree. Just tell us about the project, what relief they're requesting, and why they think that relief is appropriate. I'll then move to the public, which will include everyone else. Give them an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. I'll hear from Mr. Lashide to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I will, if there are any problems with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's a defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. I need to get all of our witnesses sworn in here. And so if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, than the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if that's you and you know you'd like to provide some testimony here today, if you could please take yourself off of mute now, I'll need you to raise your right hand and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
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 Great. Thanks, everyone. All right. So first things first here, Mr. Asmus, if you could unmute, did I see in the file somewhere that there was a request for this case to be continued?
Earlier in the week, I did, or no, I guess it was last week. I was thinking that since we had very little notice of this, that and it has such a large impact on our property and the neighborhood that I felt like it was maybe in order. But depending on how things go here today, if there's some agreement to some contingencies, then I would not request that.
Okay. All right. And then turning to the owner, Ms. Mayer or Mr. Tyree, I understand that we did discover more recently that there's potentially some additional zoning relief that may be required that was not initially included in the staff report or the notifications that went out. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, David. I just got a call from Matt maybe 3 hours ago, talking about a buffer needed, an additional buffer needed at the north property line that we were not aware of. I mean, we've been doing the coordinated site review process since January of this year, and so that's the first I've heard of this, what we're here to talk about, plus the additional buffer needed. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So and apologies for that. Sometimes that does happen. I think that leaves us though with a couple of options. In light of the information you learned today, would you like to push this actual hearing so that you can review that, and if changes need to be made to the design, that you have an opportunity to address those and adjust the site plan if necessary, before we jump into the merits of this and discuss this at length. And I'll say I think that is probably the most prudent course, based on just some of the correspondence that I've received from the public already. And I'll also say that I believe that we can still hear this case, and I can render a decision in a time frame that is roughly the same as if we were to try to trudge through it today without having, you have the opportunity to take a look at the new relief in more detail. So in any response to that, generally?
This is Nathan again, and Gail, I'll let you jump in if you need to, but like I said, I just learned about this additional buffer as of a few hours ago. I think that I probably need to go back into the site plan just to see how that would affect our site plan if we did that. And then also in terms of the surrounding property owners, it'd be nice to know kind of what their thoughts were and all that, and perhaps we would be able to address those too, or talk about them at the actual hearing too. So.
Okay. Well, so all the correspondence that we've received from neighboring property owners, if you haven't had a chance to see any of those, and it sounds like you haven't, that's something we can email to you directly. They are in the Cages Project Docs file for the case, as far as I know at this point, but we can send those directly to you if you'd like. Or we could take some time today to allow the members of the public that are here to just tell you directly. But in terms of rescheduling this hearing, do you have a sense for how long you would need before we can come back and have a meaningful discussion about the project in light of the zoning relief discovered today.
I would say is a week feasible to do?
A week is
And then
feasible.
I would ask that the zoning folks that I don't get any surprises the next time. I'm hoping this is the last one, at least in terms of zoning.
Sure. Yeah. I can assure you that that everything will have been thoroughly reviewed to the extent that it's not already, and there will not be any surprises next time. Similar surprises coming from the zoning department. I maybe should let Matt make that promise on his end from the planning department who reviews these.
Yeah, I agree, and I apologize for that, Mr. Tyree. I'll take responsibility for that. I'm sorry.
Matt, for everyone's edification, can you describe the zoning relief that was missed on this project that
Sure.
we're asking Mr. Tyree and Ms. May to respond to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Is it possible to open the staff report site plan so that I can talk through it while we look at it together?
Yeah, do you want me to share it?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Is this which one are you looking for, Matt?
Right there, yeah, the proposed site plan. So the relief that was initially identified was to allow the parking to the south along Groesbeck Road. And then after our final review yesterday, we identified at the north of the property, because the parcel to the north is zoned single family and this property is zoned residential multifamily, and the proposed use of the property is expanding by more than 30%. There is a required, it's a landscaped buffer yard. It's called a type A buffer yard in the zoning code. Basically, that's just a 6-foot tall privacy fence and some green space and landscaping that would be required here. Looking at the site plan as it's drawn now, and we're curious to see what Mr. Tyree discovers as this evolves, but hoping to release 42-foot wide drive aisle there. If that buffer yard was included to the north, that drive aisle would be reduced probably to around 32 or 33 feet. There may be about 3 spaces on the left side that would be lost, and then it would be compliant. There'd be less paving material, probably a little bit more landscaping. The hope is that it's an easy solution, and I'll work with Mr. Tyree over the next week if there are any questions or concerns about that specifically. But the parking and the dumpster need to be 10 feet from the property line.
Okay, so up here, there, if the plan and the application isn't revised, they will need an additional variance for the lack of buffer yard along this property boundary, correct, in this area?
Yes, they would need a special exception of that requirement if it were not to be revised.
Got it. Okay. All right. I wanted to just make sure everyone was clear on that as we move forward. I am happy to put this on for a week from today. And as I said, Ms. May and Ms. Tyree, and you may have heard as I was reading through the script that decisions are typically expected within 2 weeks of the hearing. I will expedite this decision and move it up my queue of cases so that I'll be able to render a decision within a week instead of 2 weeks. Thus, you won't be losing any time, and that's just an effort to try to rectify the miss on this additional zoning relief. So rest assured, you won't actually be from a permitting standpoint, if it does get to that, you won't be penalized time-wise for taking this continuance. Now, I did want, I'll throw this to Ms. May and Ms. Tyree, since we're pretty off script here. Did you want to hear from some of the neighbors now while they're here in terms of feedback on the project, so that may be something you could respond to as well within the next week? Or Did you want to just rely on the written correspondence that we've received?
I would, I'll leave that up to Miss May, but I would say the written is good. If there's anything maybe that wasn't written, if we could get that written down, or if we could address that, I guess. I'll leave that up to the owner though.
Ms. May?
Yep, no, I would agree with Nathan, and perhaps this additional kind of buffer area or this change alleviates something or some of, so.
Okay. Okay, so this is typically how a continuance will proceed. I will, and I'm looking at noon on October 23rd as a continuance day. And I think my internet connection is a little slow right now, so if you guys can't hear anything I'm saying, please let me know. But I'm looking at noon on October 23rd to move this hearing to. I will simply update the Zoom invite, so everyone that's in the hearing here today that received a Zoom invite will get another notice and be able to attend the next meeting and have an opportunity to speak, be heard. So rest assured in that sense that you all will have the opportunity to testify at this hearing and make some statements. I see some hands going up, and so I'm going to let folks, I'm going to address those hands now. So Miss Royalty, if you want to unmute.
Yes, thank you. I do think it's more prudent, just to mention to Burco staff, and thank you, for continuing this. But I think you need to realize that we've been coping with extremely bright, outward shining lights for as long as they've been up. We've made repeated efforts to reach the management about it and get through to them. There's been no response on that. And the lighting is so bright that we could read a newspaper at night. We could read a newspaper in the rooms in front of our house. So that's something existing, that has been a problem. And then, of course, the other thing is we want to make sure there's sufficient kind of buffer, not a low hedge, or something like that. We want sufficient buffer from the visual of a parking lot that, well, we don't want something that looks like a commercial gas station across from our residential area.
Okay, thanks, Miss Royalty. I'll Mr. Asmus, did you also have something you wanted to say?
Well, if I understand this correctly, this will be continued, and at this point, two of us, Carolyn and myself, and Miss McCrae, will have to rejoin again. Just wondering if we're prepared now, and we had to make some, jump through some hoops just to make this happen. And I think it's not going to change. Our point of view is not going to change because it's not really related to the north end of the lot. So is it good now not that we wouldn't still participate in that, but if the Burco residents want to, dwell on this and kick it over and then come back on the 23rd and assure us some of our concerns, I think that would be more prudent.
So I typically will grant one continuance for an applicant when good cause is shown. I think in this case it has. So I do think it's appropriate to allow the continuance and to move this case to next week. I also think if there are going to be changes to the site plan or to the design in any way between now and next week, that it would make the most sense for you to respond to the actual site plan that's being proposed when it is. But having said that, Ms. Royalty did share some concerns. I would be happy to hear your concerns now. But you also, and everyone is welcome to submit written correspondence that is an official part of the record and serves in very much the same way as oral testimony. So you also have that opportunity if it's not feasible for you to actually physically attend the next hearing. So,
Excuse me. So you're saying I mean, I am prepared to talk now. And like I said, I would prefer, since our issue is on the south side of I would prefer that we get this out in the air right now.
okay, sure. Go ahead.
Let me say something here too, David. Sorry, I'm jumping
Sure.
in here. Basically, this new zoning thing we just learned about today may impact, and I don't want to speak for Gail, whether or not we can move forward with this project, period. The goal of this project was to increase the parking, and if we're going to lose a certain amount of spots, there'll be some thinking between Burkhart and Beergo as to whether or not this is even viable, from that standpoint. So I understand the residents are concerned, and I didn't want to be rude. I just need to really analyze what this is going to do to our total yield. I mean, just learning that today, I know they've been saying they got short notice, but we've been working on this for a year, and it's a simple parking lot. We've been through the ringer on this thing, and there was something new just today that could impact the entire, whether it moves forward or not. So that's all I'm saying. So
Yeah, that was sort of my sense, just from my experience with these, is that sometimes there can be domino effects from something like this, or a change like this needing to happen. And so that's why I just thought let's wait on the public comment until we know exactly what the plan is and exactly how this is going to move forward, so that it's actually responsive to the actual application that's going to be in front of us, and not the one that it sounds like is could possibly change. I do want to give Ms. McCrae an opportunity. I know she's had her hand up here for a while. Ms. McCrae, did you want to add anything?
Sure. From the perspective of the College Hill Forum, we did not put our thoughts in writing, but we will. We have a forum meeting a week from yesterday. So on the 22nd, the day before this continued hearing, how soon or how late can we provide our comments to you? And our comments and concerns at this point are primarily related to the screening, as already articulated, but also issues of stormwater runoff on the site with the new parking configuration and the additional spaces, as well as concerns about ingress and egress from the southern entryway to the site, and any potential stacking that might impact traffic, turning onto Groesbeck Road from Hamilton Avenue. So those are our concerns. And so I can put those in writing. If there are any additional concerns, though, that come up at the forum hearing next week, is the window for written comments closed at that point? What is the deadline?
It is not. I'll accept written comments up until the time of the hearing. But as a general matter, the sooner those comments come in, the better.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? I think so. I think the plan is, again, to continue this until next week at noon. Are there any other questions? If so, please speak up now. My internet is running a little slow, and I apologize. It's just choppy, so I'll need to hear your voice. Some of my
Yes.
screens are frozen. Yes.
I'd like to say, I thought I heard it mentioned that there will be, typically there's only one continuance. Is that you mean
That-
there's only one continuance and then a decision is made?
So
And that would
typically,
be next week?
yeah. So typically, I will just grant one continuance for a party in these cases. Typically being the operative word. If there's some event again that is completely out of the applicant and the owner's control, that handicaps them in a certain way, I would have to consider granting another continuance, but that has never happened to me in the 4 years I've been doing this. And so I'm just saying that's my standard practice. So next week we will conduct a full hearing based on the procedure that I read at the beginning, where everyone has an opportunity to speak and talk about the application. And then I will take in all of that information, review all the materials, and render a decision within 2 weeks of that hearing. That's the typical procedure. Okay. All right. Well, I think we will leave it at that then. I know that we covered a lot. I know that there may still be some questions, or you may come up with some questions between now and next week. I am happy to answer any questions about the procedure, about anything that happened today. We will keep you updated of any developments or any changes that we receive from the applicant. We'll immediately get those forwarded to you and to the Mount Lookout Miss Royalty and Mr. Asmus, and to the Mount Lookout Forum. And we will plan to be back here at noon. Any other questions now before we adjourn? Okay, hearing none. We are continued in progress, and we will be, well, not technically in progress, but we are continued, and we will be back at noon on October 23rd. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.